Hey, I'm Dukes on Twitch. If you want to support the channel and greensunzenith.com, you can find my Patreon, merch store, and singles store where you can buy singles through TCG Player or Card Hoarder in the video description. If you want to get in contact, you can also find all that info in the description below for things like donation deck lists or just wanting to reach out. Alright, let's get right into it. Yo, hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back today with something a little bit different, but definitely up my alley. This is a list that was recently created by Newton, who's been playing around obviously with Cradle control for a long time and mastering that style of list. Here we can see a list that they've been playing with Badgermole Cub and a natural order package. Dan Neely took a very similar list and was also able to trophy a league, which is cool to see. And then Newton came out with this list, which, as you can see, there is no natural order package. It's quite a fair deck. It does have cards like Gaddock Teeg and Endurance to try to keep some sort of combo decks at bay. But all in all is kind of just a beatdown deck. A big mana deck, but it does take advantage of Tyvar. So if we come to the list, we can see that Tyvar is a 3-mana legendary creature. It's a 3/3. Tap another untapped creature you control. Tyvar gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. And then for 5 mana creatures you control, get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So at minimum for 5, it's going to be +3/+3. You could obviously save it by tapping other creatures. It's a pretty sweet card. And pretty cool to see this sort of list do well, obviously in the hands of Newton, but hopefully also in the hands of me. So we'll see how we go. Hey Grid, all the best in Japan. I hope you have a great time at Eternal Weekend if you're there for that. That should be a pretty amazing event. And hopefully if you're there for Legacy, of course, you can take your momentum from the Winter Lotus, winning the collector box of Final Fantasy, I'm going to say, with the Legacy, which is very cool to see. I'm not too sure if there are any other cards you needed in Japanese for Food Chain, but if you are, what are they? And yeah, what are you picking up if you are? So we obviously have a ton of mana in this list. We have access to 14 ways to accelerate on turn 1, which is pretty insane, honestly. We have Sylvan Safekeeper to keep some of the bears that we want to survive around. So obviously Gaddock Teeg can be fantastic against the Mystic Forge decks that are trying to rely on cards like the One Ring or Khan or Kozilek's Command. We have Fiend Artisans and Wight of the Reliquaries as sort of Green Sun Zeniths and Knight of the Reliquaries, which are going to go really well. Fiend obviously can also find any type of creature. So in the sideboard we do have a copy of Plague Engineer, which the Fiend can also go and find, which is quite cool. It allows us to have access to Plague Engineer through Green Sun Zenith over 2 turns, which is pretty cool. Hey Void, welcome, hope you're well. We do have 3 Cradles, 2 Wastelands for interactions, a 3rd on the board. It will be... yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this deck goes, because obviously I'm a big fan of fair decks, and this deck is quite fair. You are going to be winning most likely through either potentially some decks that just can't beat the Gaddock Teeg and Sylvan Safekeeper synergy and protection. We could potentially get there with some wins thanks to Endurance, just blowing out an opponent who's going all in on a graveyard strategy. But I think a lot of our wins are going to be through big Wights and Fiends. That should be pretty interesting. I think the sideboard does kind of show that we're a little bit weak to combo decks, as typically green white or green black decks are. So having access to Cabal Therapy and Thoughtseize in the sideboard is great. Force of Vigor and an additional Endurance is great. Force of Vigor obviously great against the lands decks, any sort of Chalice or Moon decks we care about. And then Snuff Out as well. Snuff Out's always an interesting one because when you think of a deck like this, you think of cards like Opposition Agent that are quite strong, which obviously Snuff Out doesn't deal with. But I think all in all, there's not too many decks right now running around with Opposition Agent, and it's a case of if they have it, they have it. Then we'll have to just try to beat down with all 4 creatures. But I do think that Snuff Out's quite well positioned given decks like Blue Red Delver or Cephalid Breakfast or Eldrazi are obviously around. So just being able to make sure that we're using our mana to play our creatures and then still having interaction is pretty sweet, and that's where Snuff Out can be really strong. The one thing that Snuff Out does have is typically in a normal sort of stock list of Cradle control is that you do have that out of natural order, which can end games a lot quicker. You also have access to Atraxa, which has life gain, so the 4 damage isn't too big of a pay. But against, you know, the Delver decks where we are going to be beating down and playing pretty fair, that 4 damage is going to obviously be at a cost. So we do have to be pretty resourceful with our Snuff Outs and knowing, are we able to race, or do we have to, you know, keep the Snuff Out for when we actually have 4 mana, etc. So we'll see how that goes. Right, let's get into a league and see how this goes. Should be pretty fun. I've updated all of the actual cards to reflect the first printing of each, which I do love to do. Legacy League, Newton Maverick, play points, gameplay. Cool. Yeah, really cool list. It's been really cool seeing Newton obviously evolve with the deck. I assume that they will go back to the natural order version at some point, but it's cool that they're trying out this sort of list, especially without the Badgermore Cubs. I think it's obviously a very powerful card, so to move away from it and get results is very cool to see. It's always nice to know that just because there's a really powerful deck out there doesn't mean you actually have to go with that card as well. Line this up. Perfect. Would love to play first. And a pretty sweet hand, honestly. We have access to Endurance as early as turn 1. We have Fiend Artisans coming down as early as turn 2, and then something to feed them with in the Ignoble Hierarch, so pretty happy to keep this. The Fiend Artisan gets +1/+1 for each creature in the bin, and then we have access to Wight of the Reliquary, which is each land in the bin. I believe so. Let me quickly actually check that. I should also not 6 because of the endurance. At least, honestly, a Thoughtseize here isn't the worst. I think next turn we're just going to be playing Fiend Artisan and holding up Verdant. Okay. Let me quickly check that. So Wight is this creature gets +1/+1 for each creature card in a graveyard. And then this is also creature. Okay, so it's not like another Reliquary. Okay, so Underground Sea Thoughtseize, I'm going to assume is a blue-black tempo deck. Especially seeing they didn't take the Endurance makes me think they're not going to be a combo deck like Ant or Storm, because they might worry about the graveyard and obviously Endurance here. So I think I'm still happy just to run out one of these Fiends and then get Dryad Arbor in the end step. Okay. Fatal Push will be okay. The question here is, this deck I assume is going to be running something like Orcish Bowmasters, which is obviously quite good at dealing with cards like Dryad Arbor. Dryad Arbor also quite nice to have on the field if we draw into exactly Cradle. But at the same time, if they do start going after my mana, I'm not going to be able to cast things in my hand, obviously. So maybe I actually just keep the Dryad Arbor in my deck for at least one more turn and see if we find anything else that we want to go after. Okay. Play the other Fiend, and then I think we're just going to go get the land to play this Safekeeper. Pretty happy to run into Wasteland. Murktide is definitely on my mind as well, so I think this Endurance just be a turn, could just be a play next turn, just to keep them off that ability. Question is, what do we want to start turning creatures into with the Fiend Artisan? Springheart's pretty interesting, but obviously with the Tamiyo in play isn't as great. Interestingly enough, we do of course need Noble or Birds as well to be able to cast this Gaddock Teeg, or find a Talon Gates off the top. Ito. Okay. Ito is going to be pretty strong. Interesting. So they are going to lose the Kaido next turn thanks to this Fiend Artisan with Exalted. So a land off the top would be really nice. It would allow us to play this Endurance around Haze. Not too bad either. We're definitely getting the Kaido off the board. And then I feel like here Endurance into a Daze would be kind of rough. We potentially run it into Daze next turn anyway with the Wasteland in play. A Cradle stops that. But I think just being able to take like potentially a Murktide or another threat off them would be quite nice here. Okay. I don't really care about the Thoughtseize. The Nether Goyf is somewhat annoying as a threat. So is the Tamiyo. Especially with the Brainstorm. Pretty great hand as well because they get to untap and potentially go Tamiyo into like Thoughtseize and Brainstorm and Wasteland us. They pretty much get a Force spell next turn no matter what. It honestly could just be the Brainstorm. This is actually a bit of a tricky one. I don't believe it's the Thoughtseize. I don't think we care about the Thoughtseize. The Nether Goyf is kind of answered by the Endurance, but at the same time, we do know they have a Thoughtseize. Hey, Ill-Gotten Gains, welcome. I think the Tamiyo just provides a little bit too much value. So tricky. The Nether Goyf they can also play from the yard potentially, so I don't want to take that. And let's go down to 2 mana. Thoughtseize probably the Endurance. I think it's the Tamiyo. It is a tricky one, for sure. Unfortunately, we can't like flash in the Endurance with Evoke and then sack it because this is only activated as a sorcery. So here, let's tap for mana, and then sack and target the Fiend Artisan to make use of it. There's no reason there not to use it. They're fetching right away here. It almost makes me feel like they have a I'm just gonna do this now because we can't beat a Murktide, and this does also just obviously make the Nethergoyf quite small. Just to try to keep a Murktide off the field would have been nice there. They did force it, which makes me think they do have a Murktide. No. Essentially just 2 Nethergoyfs. Or the 1. Okay. Cradle here would be a fantastic draw. Ignoble, not the worst. We obviously want to start moving this Fiend Artisan along to be able to get an Endurance. But I mean, even here we can attack for 6, which is pretty nice. Okay. Probably a good sign for us. Like 2 mana draw a card at this position does feel good for us, as 2 mana is a lot. For them, it's probably 2 spells. So I feel like this turn of Ponder and also draw a card is, yeah, a lot better than them playing another threat or trying to Wasteland us, Fatal Push, the Fiend Artisan, etc. This, sack this. That's a fantastic draw, because it's a land that also plays around Wasteland to some extent. There's also some cool plays here, like Fiend Artisan gets +1/+1 for each creature. So if we had 1 off lethal, we could attack, and if they don't block, sack the Wooded Foothills, get a Dryad Arbor, and then sack that to the Safekeeper to get that extra 1 point in. We have some options here. We can either attack for 3, or attack for 6, or we could potentially just get another Fiend Artisan in play. We could also get a Wight of the Reliquary in play. But I kind of like just attacking here. Yeah. Do attack. Wow. I will fetch out the Dryad Arbor here. Play the forest. And then honestly, I think here, just to take some pressure off, the best thing to do is going to be I could attack with the Safekeeper for 3. Because I probably want to keep the Dryad Arbor around just because it is Safekeeper fodder. I think I'd rather get rid of an Exalted creature. The worst case is they have a Bowmaster, which is essentially 3 damage to block. Really interesting. You guys start with the Safekeeper. And then second main phase, turn one of the Ignoble Hierarchs into an Endurance. Wow, no Brainstorm. Okay. Now let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Get rid of a Ignobled. Go and get an Endurance. Target them. Turning off Murktide. Then also making this a 0/1. We have 2 lands for the Safekeeper. Protect our creatures. We have 2 lethal threats as well. Okay. What do they target? Okay. But this is worth saving because if we give protection here as well, it fizzles. So I think we want to go this, protect this. The Dryad Arbor is an attacker, so maybe we actually just get rid of the forest. You don't get any token off that, which is great. Cameo is fine. If we attack with everything except the Ignobled, they have to block here, they have to block here, and then they get to potentially trade either the Safekeeper or the Dryad Arbor. I think here I would rather just attack with the Fiend and the Endurance and then play the Springheart. I don't want them to be able to deal with the Safekeeper, and losing the land kind of turns off the Safekeeper as well, so it's these 2. This. Hey Ronga, thanks for the follow, hope you're well. Let me know if you play Legacy. If you enjoy the format. Right, a pretty grindy matchup. I think the Grist is a nice pickup, and I think the extra Endurance is a nice pickup. The Gaddock Teeg is a pretty easy cut. I don't mind the Safekeepers, but I think we just need... I don't really even think we need more than 1. Potentially 1 just to save some of our bigger creatures from, say, Fatal Push, but otherwise I would say it's not the greatest card. Plague Engineer is pretty interesting against the Bowmasters, but otherwise, again, not the greatest. I think if anything, it's really just a case of us hitting our land drops. Even the Thoughtseizers, we saw there, they do run out of cards quite quickly, but being able to have some sort of interaction with either the threats that we care about or their removal for our threats is pretty key. Wasteland's always interesting. I would say the Wasteland plan on the play is a little bit more appealing. Being able to get out early mana acceleration into Wasteland's quite nice, but it's not like they're a deck that relies on their lands in any way to win the game. Leyline's probably overkill. Snuff Out's kind of interesting, especially knowing about Cameo. But obviously, like Barrogoyf's post board, I'm not too sure if they're even on Murktide. I'm not too sure that Snuff Out's actually worth it. I think I'm just going to run it back like this and see how this plays out. Something like 3 lands or like 2 lands, 2 mana acceleration pieces would be nice. Relying just on this seems like a bit of a risk that I'm not willing to take. I think we lose this game by losing that early game, and that's exactly what we're doing here, so be happy to mulligan that. Much better, like kind of what I was talking about before. Double land, double acceleration. Obviously the Cradle relies on these creatures being around, but I think that's okay. I think because of the Cradle, we also want to keep both of these. So it's probably between the Endurance and the Green Suns, and I think here it's just going to be... It's interesting because the Once is going to find most likely a land or a mana source, a mana dork. Having the Green Suns plus the Endurance is quite nice. Definitely keeping. Could just be the Endurance. You will need to put a exclamation point, I believe, before Decklist. But it should be on the screen. Also, if you search up Hello Newton, you'll find him on MTG Goldfish. And this list 5-0'd just recently. Sewers is going to be fine. I think because we have spoken about mana, this Wooded Foothills is just going to get a forest. Wasteland in the bin. Very interesting. I'm pretty happy to play this into a Daze. Ooh. The Wight is quite nice here. Fiend is also pretty cool. I do like that Wight has Vigilance. I'm also going to throw out the Hierarch that I care about the least because it doesn't make white mana. Which, to be fair, post board doesn't actually matter without Teeg, but the thought was there. Hey, Matzel, you put back the Once? That's a very fair point as well, and I assume that's just because we kind of already have a hand that has a plan, and so the Once doesn't need to find something specific. You would rather have the Endurance in your hand than a Once that could potentially find a threat like Endurance. I did, yes, thankfully. We had 2 Onces in that hand. Freaked me out for a second there. That is all good. Always nice to have you here. I definitely feel a lot better with you around. Okay. We could deploy the Once here and also Noble. We also have access to 3 mana off the Cradle, which is kind of cool. I feel like this Green Suns is going to be going for Grist in case of a Barrogoyf next turn. So I kind of like the thought of Tyvar. Cradle pass with Once open, and then we untap and Grist. There's no real point to Once here because we can't, I guess, unless we find exactly a mana door. I guess that is a good reason to Once here. Don't. We do find a nice threat just in case they get rid of the other one. I think I'm more inclined to get the Fiend turning our creatures into better creatures than the Wight going wide with mana. Seeing we already have Cradle as well. I think I'm pretty happy if it's not Barrogoyf here. Even if it's something like Land Bowmasters, I think we're okay with that. Hey Dom, welcome. Wow, okay. So Ponder Shuffle. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. We have access to Dryad Arbor here, which is pretty nice. We do have potentially access to Wight over a few turns with Green Suns. Correct. Once on their turn would protect from other hand attacks, but we did think about the potential of only finding a Hierarch effect, which we did have the mana left over for, so that just allows us to potentially play that if that occurs. I think I'm happy to start with the Fiend. Okay. Verdant. Green Suns with the mana open for days. Force is okay. Force pitching days, okay. Still have 4 cards. I assume Fatal Push here. There. Bowmasters is fine. Still no mana, so let's get the Dryad Arbor here, especially to turn on the Cradle as well. And also keep attacking. Endurance is pretty nice. Am I inclined to attack here? If they double block, they pretty much take us off 2 mana, which I think is worse for us. So I think here I'm pretty happy just to sorcery speed endurance. Play around potentially a Murktide. Tricks. Interesting. Well, now I'm pretty happy to start attacking with the Dryad Arbor. I think the Windswept Heath here is better as just an unknown card in my hand as well, because it can't get another Dryad Arbor, it can't get a Surveil Land, it can get a Black Source, but we don't currently need it, so I'm pretty happy just to pass here. Tamiyo makes this board really tricky because now attacking with Dryad Arbor isn't enough, which means we want to attack with the Endurance, but they have a Baleful Strix. So tricky. That's pretty interesting. That makes me want to attack with the Endurance. See if they block with the Strix, untap, attack with the Tamiyo, and then we have an Endurance to actually block and kill it. Unless they have some sort of Brainstorm effect, but still. Very interesting. They're not blocking with the Strix. I wonder why. My only thought is potentially they put us on natural order and they think that they want the Baleful Strix around for, say, Atraxa, but I think Atraxa has first strike potentially. Or they went to fail push it. Okay, that's fair. That is fair. I think I'm just overthinking. No Surveil Land in this list. No, I took the exact same 75 of Newton's. Hey Mapson, very cool to see you. Hope you're doing well. Alright, let's to be fair, I should have played this in response to the clue, so they can't say draw into a force or a blue card. I think that's exactly what they're going to do. Draw with the clue. Ooh, okay. I'm almost inclined to put back my stuff. An Endurance, a Fiend, a Wight. Maybe not. Like, it does make... It does open me up to a lot of... Just trying to think of like how do I lose this game? It's probably Barragoyf. So to be able to keep that down at some point, I think is okay. Hey, thanks Ace, I appreciate that. Oh, I didn't click anyone? That's not correct, apologies. Okay. I think here again, we're pretty happy just to attack. Even with both. Just keep pressure going. Hey, Sato-san, very cool to see you. Hope you're doing well. Again, pretty happy not to play the Windswept. Oh, actually, incorrect, because we are going to Endurance ourselves. So now this Windswept Heath does represent the Dryad Arbor. So I definitely should have played the Windswept Heath and then held the Endurance in hand. Incorrect play. Again, pretty happy to potentially keep a Kaido off the field. That Dryad Arbor back. Black off the fetch is a really good vision as well. What I would love here is a tireless tracker. That would be a sweet play. Start drawing some cards. Okay. Okay. Yeah, tireless tracker is sweet. I'm not sure if it still sees any sort of modern play, even in like Amulet as like a sideboard juke. Actually, I heard you talking about it on Eternal Witnesses and how someone got to like 20 clues and was like, I don't really have a way to show off that I have more than that, so let's just say we have 20 because that's all I really need. Pretty funny. Very cool to see Tireless Tracker around. I do like playing Tireless Tracker when I can in Highlander, especially in Highlander lands. It's just such a sweet effect. And I feel like it's such an unrespected card. It's so good. It really is so good. Who for the throat? Wow. Here is Murktide. I'd love to see if they attack with the Tamiyo. Don't have them. This is where I would love a Sajiri step in the deck. Obviously, we're not in a Reclaimer build, so... we do have black here. And take a look. Kaito and another Tamiyo. I think it's still going to be the Kaito here. Don't have a great attack, so we do just have to pass here. Have a 3-turn clock. You, of course, can. This is Stream Beats, which was created by Harris Heller, who's a big YouTuber, streamer, etc., and put together a bunch of lists on Stream Beats. So this is the lo-fi one. I typically listen to the lo-fi one or the ambient one. They are royalty free, so there's no copyright, which is great. Good music to Mio flips pretty good here. Definitely moving towards the need of Tyvar on this board. Wasteland, nice. Still have Grist. But we also are down on time, so I think there's only a few more draws here that really allow us to play out this game and then move on to the next. Non-streaming. I really like Taiko. Taiko is probably one of my big bands. Bowls. A lot of scores. So Moneyball. I love the soundtrack for Moneyball. The King with Timothy Chalamet. That has a really good score as well. Honestly, for like work, Skyrim. Skyrim's definitely my go-to. I think we'll take one draw here, but I think it's you know, scoop it up and play a game 3 and see how that goes. But I also don't mind some quite interesting. That does get Talon gates. There's a bit of a plan. Okay, there goes the plan. Do we need Snuff Out? Maybe like 2. It's really awkward because of their creatures, but knowing that they do have Murktide and obviously Tamiyo, there is a world where I don't mind Snuff Out and maybe like the Thoughtseizes go down. Wasteland on the play, I don't mind as much. I think the Springhearts were just in a 5-minute game. That's probably where I'm making cuts. Maybe just like a 2-2 split. Yeah, Currumbin. I've been to Currumbin, Ocean Alley, for like indie music. Yeah, Currumbin is fantastic. Cigarettes After Sex, really good band. Like Block Party, yeah, Foals, Gang of Youths, Taiko, Yasmos. Yasmos are really good. KEXP, I think it's the radio station that has a lot of live music in the US. I remember seeing Kiasmos on there. Right, we have to be pretty aggressive with this start, and I think this is a pretty good hand for that, because we have turn 1 mana acceleration, and then turn 2 Fiend and Wasteland. I think at this opening, I'm happy to go Forest. into Noble. And then next turn, Wasteland, Fiend. What about you, Mapson? I know you're a multi-instrumentalist. They Thoughtseize us and take the Fiend. I think I'm just going to go Wasteland, play Hierarch, attack for 2. Save the Green Suns for now. Go Wasteland. Nobled. Okay. Island Ponder I'm pretty happy to see here. It's most likely going to be... I actually think land fetch Green Suns and then attack with Noble to play around days. Leaving up a Hierarch allows us to play around days but also be able to attack in for 2, which is pretty relevant here. That changed things. Potentially... 2, 3. Could also go for Grist, but I think just going for a 2-drop here in Fiend Artisan is pretty sweet. And 6. Yeah, I think this is a good example of where just getting a few reps with the deck before you play it is also going to be pretty strong. They just allow you to not have to rush a little bit in your opening games, especially on MTGO. Grix is going to be fine. I don't mind starting off with that, especially to see if they have like a Kaito. They do. Okay. They don't have double for Murktide. Could also just be take Brainstorm and then tick down on the Fiend to get a Grist to take out the Baleful Strix. Not as great. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. Be the long way around. Discard Kaido, get an Endurance is also quite good. Yeah. Yeah, because now I'm actually, yeah. Now I'm going really down on mana. Oh, on creatures, I should say. I mean, we do have Dryad Arbor in hand. They drew Brainstorm. I guess if we draw exactly Cradle, we can turn our 1/1 into an Endurance. Would be kind of cool. Okay, interesting. try for that endurance. Up. Snuff Out goes to the bin. It's fair. Card left. No point playing the Cradle. Tough. But pretty sweet match. I think just more time with the deck, especially decision making, is a big one. The deck does have a lot of play sets, which is great, but there's some pretty key cards to look out for and the right time to go for them. And even small things, like I would assume that in that sort of matchup, I do like Fiend Artisan, especially over Wight, especially turning your X1s into actual threats. I think that's pretty cool. Damn. I believe this will be Infect, but it could also be like a Jeskai build. Dryad Arbor is a bit tricky here, but otherwise it's a pretty sweet hand, especially the once. We don't have a great removal suite for Infect, but we can see what's up. I wouldn't mind another Matter Accelerant. Don't find it. Springheart's pretty interesting here. Especially if we go Bayou into Noble. Island Brainstorm doesn't give away if they're on Infect or Control, but I'm leaning more towards Control. Especially if they kept an Island start hand with no turn 1, if their turn 2 play wasn't land into Blighted Agent. And it's tricky because if they're on Infect, I want to get this Wight online. Okay, if there's a Forest, still it could be some sort of Bant deck, but I think here we just want to try to get this Wight online. And then this turn probably also play the Dryad Arbor. They're not doing anything else with that mana here anyway. Interesting. Okay. I don't mind trying to go wide here. and they're just holding up the once here. I think if it is going to be a control deck, having a line of Safekeeper and Teeg in the same turn would be great, especially if they're a Supreme Verdict deck. The ring. Yes. I'm just going to fetch a basic here because of back to basics. Go for once. Find the Safekeeper, which is nice. Try to play Green Suns first. Gaddock Teeg. Then play the Safekeeper. Okay. We'll see how far that can get. We can't attack, of course, because they have protection. Okay. Do we really need to find Exalted? Cradle's also pretty interesting. We actually can't Green Sun Zenith right now either. We can attack for 3 into this, neg to 2. I honestly don't mind the Cradle, because turning on this Endurance is pretty sweet. I feel like we can just play this Fiend out. Might as well just hold up the Endurance. They need to put a card into the bin to be able to Uro. I guess like Murktide potentially is a reason to just ask the Endurance. Yeah, I'm going to have to go to discard here, but I still will Endurance now because I want to get it on the field to take out this Cameo. No Behemoth in this list, which is actually quite interesting. No natural order package. A very fair deck, to say the least. Panic and Brainstorm, okay. We have Behemoth at home, that's very true. Ooh, Fiend Artisan getting... I like your style, Matsol. I like your style. We might as well see, right? So let's go play Wasteland. Trigger. I don't know if it shows us easily. Okay, it does show us. Okay. So if we add mana here. Oop, sorry. Cancel that. Right. I think we're just going to use a Cradle because I don't want to use these because we're going to attack with these. Let's go Cradle, Endurance. 1, 2, 3. X is 3. Done. Get rid of the Summoning Sick Insect. Tyvar. Activate once. Okay. And then let's try to activate twice here, I guess. Nice. That is a very cool way to get the game. Very, very cool. Very lucky. Very lucky I had him at Soul in chat. Okay. We're looking at a control style deck. I honestly don't mind the extra Wasteland and the Grist. Probably the Endurance as well. Probably the Thoughtseize. The Snuff Outs are pretty interesting, but I think probably just a little bit too niche. We love the Gaddock Teeg and Safekeepers. Oh, we have a Bojuka Bog. I should have thought about this in the previous game. That's all good. I could see myself going down on some number of creatures, and it could just be the birds because they don't have Exalted, which is pretty huge against Tamiyo. Like the Springhearts, again, going wide with 1/1s isn't great against the deck that is most likely going to cut that. I don't mind this. This is quite nice. See how this rolls. Tyvar there was sweet. Okay. Like turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Fiend, potentially, or Dryad Arbor. I think we can work with this. Mana's a little bit iffy, but I think that's okay. They are on a mulligan. Right. Let's go for Bayou. There is a thought here to move towards Dryad Arbor, expand our mana, and then next turn potentially double spell in Thoughtseize and Fiend Artisan. I don't mind that. A little bit caught off if they have, say, Tamiyo in to hold up Brainstorm. But I think for now, we really just want to build out our mana. And make sure next turn we can double spell. Will give us the most chance to double spell. And honestly, a Swords of Plowshares going at Dryad Arbor when we have these threats coming down, hopefully next turn. That's not too bad either. Start with Thoughtseize. Wonder Prismatic. Interesting. I don't care about the Force too much. I think it's the Prismatic. And then we can go Bayou into Wight. Land Swords to Plowshares attack would be pretty brutal. That is part of the game. I mean, here we do have Fiend into Cradle hold up Endurance. Which is kind of a giveaway given that we didn't attack the Dryad Arbor. They decline to use Ponder's ability. Again, Endurance before the clue so that they can't crack it to get a blue card. Which are Murktides, that's decent for us. Matic. Green Suns is pretty sweet. We can just... I think I like Grist here. Get rid of the Tameo. Have something on the board as well. Two cards. Uro. Okay. This is actually a really interesting point. So we know that they have Murktide in exile, so they do run Murktide. We did also see Uro. I think I'm actually just going to hold the Endurance for now. There is also the option, if needed, to Endurance ourselves to put Dryad Arbor back into the deck to then fetch it. He will cast the Merc, but we do have access to... Oh, I wonder if they blow this straight away. We do have access to Talon Gates as well to buy some time to tick up the Grist. Zero cards. Okay. I think in this spot, I'm happy to play the Endurance. Target myself. Then fetch that Dryad Arbor. They're going to blow the EE. That's probably fine. It deals with the insect, but that's okay. Windswept. I honestly don't mind pick up, and then we have the Talon gates to buy some time. Ooh, no, but the Talon gates... Oh, okay, cool. So the Talon gates will bring it back in their turn, which means we can't actually grist it. But what we can do here is block with the Endurance, and then before damage, Talon gates out our Endurance to keep the Murktide in play, keep the Grist in play, and now we get to untap and then tick down Grist, take out the Murktide, but still have the Grist around. So that wasn't the original plan, but that obviously is the plan, to be able to keep the Grist in play, Murktide in play, and hope that this does okay. Yeah, Prismatic Ending for 3 obviously changes things here. Yeah, that was actually not the plan, and I actually didn't even have that plan in my head. So talking about it can definitely change how things go, which is right. So let's pick down Grist straight away. Attack this. Deal with this. They have 0 cards in hand. I don't want to make them have to have a removal spell for the Endurance, so I'm not going to attack with it here. I want to hold it back for the Tamiyo. I don't want to play this either. It doesn't really have a benefit right now. And keeping off the ability to draw into a card is pretty strong. And now we have Wight open as well. Pick up the Grist. Get a Lair. I could have attacked with the Wight. Apologies, it has Vigilance. That's on me. He shuffled. Okay. Play Tundra. They will get to flip the Tamiyo here with the draw. Get rid of this. We're just gonna get a Wasteland. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Hey, 65, welcome. Hope you're doing well. I wonder here if I just want to get a Gaddock Teeg post board. Okay. We will play this. So we currently have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. We can pump 5 into this, or 6 to make it a 5/5. Be able to kill Tamiyo. Here, and then 3, 5. Yep, that works. Yeah, I think we're still getting big here. Just doing it now because it adds 1 for the Cradle. That might not actually come up. so we need... I guess we don't need to. I didn't use the grist yet. Yeah, no mana floating. We can tick this up. There we go. And that means we can do this. Activate. And then also Wasteland them to keep them off the ability to Uro and get Uro back. Let me go attack 10. Pace. Okay. And now they actually have access to green. I think it's white that I want to kind of take them off. I'm going to take them off the Savannah because that's also a green source. Very cool. Very nice to get back on the board. I'm going to go to the bathroom real quickly. Teeg is sweet. Teeg is fighting a lot of the fair fight, which is nice. So it's great to see Gaddock Teeg getting some play, as old as he may be. I'll be back in 1 second. If you enjoy this content, definitely take this time to consider following the channel as I try to hit 4,000 by the end of the year. Right. Gameplay, very cool. Yeah, Teeg's been sweet. Teeg's been probably more impressive than Collector Oof at the moment, especially against Colgan's command, the big one. That was a sweet. Sweet. Yeah, Legacy seems good. I think when Knight of the Reliquary is a somewhat playable card, then it is a good format in my eyes, a healthy format, a lot of choice. I think when Delver's at the top as well, it's typically quite good, other than when it's a Ren deck, or a Ragavan deck, or a Dreadhorde deck, or an Expressive Iteration deck. Otherwise, it's pretty good. I can't complain. Yeah, Tyvar coming in with the goods. Pretty sweet to have. believe this set is Duskmorn, I want to say. Hopefully that's correct. Maybe not. It is a mythic. That was like a butterfly. I think it is Duskmorn. Anyone confirm? Hey Caper, apologies I didn't see you before. There we go. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, cool set. Obviously what the Overlords were from as well. Overlord or Overlord of the Burkmore? Duskmorn. There we go. What was I saying? Long day. Long day for Shell. Right, here we go. On the play, which is nice. Fast mana and 2-drops. It is a 1-lander, which I'm sure Newton might have something to say about, but I'm just not a big fan of 1-landers that obviously rely on Ignobled. And even, like, turn 2 missile land drop Green Suns for Dryad Arbor. Oh, I was saying Duskmorn. Okay, cool. I am going to mulligan this. No lander. I mean, it's a 1-lander, but like double Safekeeper. Right, well now we have all the mana. I think in this case it's going to be keeping double Thoughtseize and Wooded Foothills. Just so we can have some control over the early game. This is getting Bayou. There is a world where we Thoughtseize off a Bayou and they're a Wasteland start and that is Wasteland us, which means we want to keep the bird for Black Source. So I could see something like this, just to make sure we are hitting mana. Unfortunate, but our opponent has also gone to 5 cards. So I think us having a bit more control over what can happen in the early turns should hopefully favor us to some extent. Let's use you. Okay, we're going to be up against Oops. And here at least we can take the Informant. Yeah, it's just the best take here. They do have Cabal Ritual, obviously, but yeah. They can just get that on the board. We kind of hope it's just going to be Trawler tapped here. Or don't even play anything. Okay, that kind of makes sense as well. We will have another look. Right. It could be the Trawler. Keeping them off black is pretty important. Especially if they draw into another Informant. If they have the land, they obviously have black +3 mana, which is enough for Informant plus activation. So I think I will just take them off that. Play the forest, play the bird, and hope. At least we need to know they need to draw Black Source and also Breacher. Fiend is nice, as it does move towards Wight, which moves towards Bog. I've drawn 2 cards. A Dryad. Not what we wanted. That is fine. That is all good. These things happen. We just have to adjust. And I think that's going to be through... Oh, actually, Gaddock Teeg is pretty sweet. Because it stops their removal spell and also stops Dread Return. It does mean they can still Poxwalker, etc. But maybe Teeg is just what we need for now. It just buys us at least one turn. Teeg does turn off our ability to Green Suns in future. But I think it kind of just has to be for now. Yeah. Like there might be a world where they don't want to play it out, but I think they could have a Poxwalker line to get there, but thankfully they don't. Okay, so nice to definitely see, like, obviously a little bit of bad luck and misfortune to draw the bog, but it's nice just to reevaluate what your situation is and then just play the next best thing, which thankfully there is pretty good. Okay, ley lines help here, of course. I think like the Springhearts, the Tyvar, just a little bit more grindy than we need. They, like, when I think of Safekeeper, I think of what sort of removal do they have for a card like Teeg in play? And obviously they have the land, that's also a removal spell. I think it's like Fell with a Profane, but that is 4 mana, I believe, which is turned off by Teeg anyway. But if they have a bounce spell, like a Echoing Truth or a Chain of Vapor, that's a great reason to keep the Safekeepers in. But maybe not both. Like maybe the Thoughtseize is good. Plague Engineer is kind of interesting because you could hit either side of Narcomoeba or Poxwalker, which maybe is just the better 3-drop than Tyvar. The extra endurance obviously makes sense, and it's probably better than some of the mana dorks in like Birds. Baal's really interesting. I don't think we're at like a Force of Vigor sort of game. The extra Wasteland's actually pretty interesting as well, if we are trying to slow the game down. I don't mind this. Obviously, Leyline's really strong, but we just want to make sure our hand is playable first. What is the plan, and then go from there. So this is pretty much on the draw, a turn 2 Gaddock Teeg, which gives them 1 turn, 2 turns, which I think is just probably a bit too slow. There's nothing here that screams appealing to me. Okay, this hand has a little bit more, especially if they don't just have a turn 1 play, and our opponent has also mulliganed to 6. So we don't have the ley line, but what we do have is turn 1 interaction in Thoughtseize or Wasteland. We do have mana acceleration and mana to move towards, like, just hard casting a ley line off the top. That I think this is probably worth keeping and probably just dropping fetch land here. And then just hoping we get a turn, or that potentially this once finds. That's going to be tricky. But this game might actually not even matter. But the ley line obviously does turn off a few things, such as endurance and Thoughtseize. I think this honestly might be take the Teeg, Wasteland them, and then just hope that they don't draw a land over the next 2 turns. Right. We do need a white source up the top as well, and we have been gifted that white source. This is it. This is it. LED. Okay. There we go. We tried. We did try. We can see how they boarded. They are playing a Charbelcher. Interesting. There's Fel the Profane, of course. Leyline. Okay. So probably is worth bringing in that the Force of Vigors. But funnily enough, they don't have a way to deal with Leyline. But of course, they do have the Charbelchers, so. You will bring these in. We didn't see removal outside of Bell, so I think we can take out the Safekeeper. And then it's potentially just another Matador. Okay, pretty sweet hand. We have the Leyline. We have access to hopefully mana. We do have Thoughtseize, of course, as well. So pretty happy to keep this and see what happens. Opponent goes to 6 cards. Opponent goes to 5. Okay. Well, at least that kind of tells us what we're doing now. There's that issue. Not finding a land. We do find an endurance, which means we can pitch it to the Cradle to then play the Hierarch if needed here. Which I think might just be the case. Play Cradle. Pitch the Wight. Tap this. Play the Hierarch. And then hopefully be able to get a land off the top or Green Suns for Gaddock Teeg. No. So I think here we do just attack because we can't Thoughtseize anyway. Nice. Fetch for the Bayou. 1, 2, 3. Green Suns for Gaddock Teeg. Nice. Very cool. All right. Oops, I win. It's been oops. 4 color control and blue-black. Okay. Obviously a lot of mana, but having the Fiend Artisan is quite nice. Being able to recycle hopefully some of these creatures into Fiend for bigger creatures is always nice. Have access to stable mana. I'd be pretty happy if this was a Delver matchup. That'd be kind of cool. Scalding Ton into Ponder off an island doesn't give away 2. Typically, a blue-red Delver deck will go for Volk first, especially in the blind. Makes me think it's more of a Polish deck. I'm pretty happy to go for Bayou because they don't have red, so they can't go like Wasteland and also Bolt. Double Ponder off an island. Definitely makes me a little bit more concerned and maybe like move towards Gaddock Teeg as soon as possible. Prismatic Vista definitely makes me want to move towards that as well. But at least if they're swordsing a Hierarch here, we're following up with some pretty good plays as well. But given the basics, I am going to get a basic as well, just to respect back to basics a little bit. Green Suns is kind of nice. I probably don't mind here trying to use Green Suns for a Grist. But I also don't want to play into... They're probably not a Daze deck, to be fair. I think here I'm happy to go for Grist. I don't want to overcommit the board into a verdict effect. The Grist allows me to commit to the board without doing so. Grist is in the board, isn't it? Yeah. I think it's still going to be Teeg. They didn't have a 3-drop. Surely they have a 4-drop. I'm also just... It is tricky if I want to play a land here. Like maybe... I think the Dryad Arbor I want to play to have around for the Fiend Artisan. And the Talon Gates I wouldn't mind having at instant speed to save some things. But I'd probably rather just skip the land drop this turn. Like, end-step Swords on Teeg, untap Verdict 2 would be pretty brutal. So at least I have a little bit in hand to come back from that sort of effect. Best guy. Snapcaster. Okay. To be fair, oh, they're going to go after the black mana. Interesting. Interesting. That's very true, yeah. Maybe they're reading into us missing the land drops. I don't mind playing a Fiend out, as it's the card we have 2 of. And then playing the Dryad Arbor. And then just passing back. Back to basics would be quite strong for them. Interesting, just to do it during my turn. This can't tap. That's fair. I think in that case, I'm happy to get the Wight into play. They're going to force... because of the Teeg turned off. I think that's fine. I think in that case, I'm happy to play the Talon Gates and get rid of my Fiend, just so they can't get rid of it in their turn, and it comes back to my turn without summoning secrets. Also happy to attack here just to turn off that like flame and all value they get from having the Snapcaster in play. It is of course pretty good for us with Fiend Artisan, but I think we're in a position where we're okay with that. Interesting. Happy to try to see if we can find a Cradle. No, but we do find fetch land. We do find a Cradle. Start with Hierarch. And I think I'm okay attacking with Teeg here. 3. Nice. And then let's get rid of... I'm going to do for 2. Just in case they don't respond to this, thinking that I'm getting a 2-drop. They don't. Okay. We'll just get the Safekeeper. Now we have Safekeeper Teeg, which is pretty strong. We also have that 5/5. They have a dress down, so it doesn't really matter. I just hope it isn't like a Supreme Verdict here. Oof. Okay. Interesting. Because the dress down. Maybe that's why they scooped. Very interesting. They don't have haste, which is pretty funny. That is quite funny. Okay. I like the Grist. I like the Thoughtseize. I think that's kind of it. Like, Plague Engineer isn't that great. I'm pretty happy to drop the birds being creatures without Exalted. Could just be this, honestly. That is quite funny though. This seems pretty strong. Question is, what do we want to do? We want to obviously take our opponents down to 0 life. We're most likely doing that through Fiend Artisan or Wight, or potentially being able to go wide and Tyvaring them. That would be done through Teeg and Safekeeper on board, most likely. I don't mind a Force of Vigor. I assume Back to Basics is in the list, and we did see Dress Down, so the Force is pretty nice. Like Endurance is actually pretty interesting with with Dress Down, because you can just get a free one in their turn. They do end step it, but yeah, Therapy's quite interesting. I'm just not too sure what I would be trying to hit in the blind. It can work with Thoughtseize, but obviously they're also a Brainstorm deck. We could try it out. We're up a game. I don't mind trying some things out. I think that the Nantukus are probably just a little bit win more. I think if we have the creatures to be able to put them on, then we're probably already in a really good position. I could see a Wasteland coming out as well. Like, we could try something like this. Okay. Not a great hand against something like a turn 1 Tameo, but otherwise I'm pretty happy to see where it goes. Okay, that's nice for us. So let's start with Verdant, Thoughtseize. Okay. I think here, honestly, it's just the Thunder Trap trainer. It's the card they play to the board that obviously gives them a lot of value, so pretty happy to take that. The 3 of these are all different types of removal, so taking that off the board is quite it's here. And then honestly, early on, I don't mind just throwing this Noble Hierarch into this sort of removal that they have. Drew Wrath. Find Wrath, okay. We're getting pretty interesting here. Like, if we take the Flame, let's dismiss. Thoughtseize them. Take the Flame. We turn off a lot of their removal. If we also take the Sword or get the Noble sorted. Take this. They no longer have this. And really try to constrict them into a turn where they might feel like they have to towards the Noble. I guess that is our white mana for the Teeg as well, so please don't. That's probably a little bit of a thought that I didn't even, yeah. It goes Prismatic. Okay. A little bit awkward with our mana in that if we once into a 1-drop, we can't cast it this turn. We will do it. We find a Wight, which is pretty sweet. Let's take the Wight. Let's play the Bog so we can file them next turn. And then play the Wight. Either time. Start with Cabal. Force the Pouches. They have Prismatic. Wrath and Prismatic. Cool. Play the Wight. Play the Cradle. Pass. Okay. One card versus 2 cards. Let's go. We have 3 mana to play with. Yeah, not even attacking first. Not even trying to send some sort of read. That is fine. We have the Force of Vigor ready, which is nice. Okay. I think here we just see what we draw into, then hold the force. Okay. Just confirming we don't have a Savannah. That is fine. The Ponder I'm going to let resolve. I don't want to show them that we have the force and they don't have the back to basics before they play it. A1 at the forest. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cast on this. Green Suns for Grist. No. But a Dryad Arbor, which does turn on the guy's Cradle as well. Not as all lost. Ooh, Flame of an Ore. Draw 2 cards. Yeah, I think we could have definitely thought more about that Noble Hierarch play, and knowing that Gaddock Teeg did really rely on that. Dryad Arbor. Okay. Force. Teeg sadly just in hand. Sitting, waiting, wishing. I think we can probably concede here. I guess we have 16 minutes. So we can play this out a little bit more. I think sadly we're just a little bit too far behind. We can see some sideboard cards as well. There's definitely value in playing. And obviously giving up is just weak, so. Yeah, that is pretty funny. Graf Digger's Cage. Okay. Good to know. Quite funny that allows us to attack. Yeah, Graf Diggers does of course still stop the Green Sun Zenith in the deck as well, and be able to fetch out something like a Dryad Arbor with a fetch land. Talon Gates does allow us to get the mana. Let me get rid of this. I think if they were really in a bind, they could just tick down the Tamiyo, get the Swords to Plowshares, so that's a little bit worrying that they don't really care about the Teeg right now. Like Endurance would be good for their upkeep. Yeah. Interesting. Going for the Brainstorm over the swords. So really not caring about Teeg. Yeah, I am too. I thought that Teeg would be annoying enough. Wrath of the Skies, Prismatic Ending, maybe the One Ring, Force of Will, maybe Supreme Verdict, maybe Terminus, Fourth Eralingus. Unfortunately, Green Suns would be a fantastic draw to be able to get Safekeeper, but we don't have a way to get Teeg off the field. We don't run like a Caracas or another Talon Gates to phase it out. Grab a Force of Will, but of course that's not going to do a whole lot. Okay, there's the Endurance. That's quite cool. I don't want to tap too much because of back to basics, but enough to make this a threat and also have Endurance up as well. Okay. I wonder if I actually just want to Endurance right now. And just take my opponent off the ability to play like a Murktide. And then we can also do 6, which is great from a time perspective. That's true, they can technically still cast a Murktide. That's very true. Yeah. You just let the Tamiyo fall. We know they have one Force of Will from the Thunder Trap. Fiend is stopped by the Grafdigger's Cage as well. It didn't have a basic to find off the fetch land. No. Let's attack with these. They are putting value on the Thunder Trap in play. Which makes sense with cards like Flame of Anor. Like if they have a Snapcaster, I don't want them to be able to block the Gaddock Teeg. That's why I'm just attacking with just these two. Wow. Opponent drawing a lot of cards, so obviously... But they had a sword. I don't understand. Hey, I don't understand. But hey, we're 3-1, which is nice. This guy. That was a game that we were like, you know what, we'll probably just pack it in. That is why you don't pack it in. That's why you don't play weak. Pretty sweet hand, honestly. Turn 1 Mana Accelerant, turn 2 Safekeeper into Wight. In Newton's world would say that is just pretty much GG. I think against a Flooded Strand hand, I'm pretty happy to start with Thoughtseize, depending on what they do. Like Pond or Tamiyo. I almost feel that Thoughtseize puts us too far behind on board with Tamiyo already in play. Could definitely be another Jeskai Wizards. Interesting to go for the island straight away. We're probably going for Bayou here. Nuts that they're going to draw at least probably 3 cards just off the clues if they have the mana. Like turn 1, attack, turn 2, attack, turn 3, attack. The Green Suns maybe finds an endurance down the line. I feel like Thoughtseize is best as early on. Okay. So I'm pretty happy to take a Barragoyf here. Leave them with a Tamiyo. We know they have the Wasteland, but we're pretty okay with that given that we have mana to build out. And it does put them behind a little bit as well. They're going to play the Delta. Wow, so they're going to move towards that Barragoyf. That makes me want to double down Bayou and then move towards Wight. They could crack Clue and then Daze here potentially, or even Force Tamiyo. I wouldn't mind seeing the Barragoyf here. Yeah. Because now we do get to triple spell. Start with Safekeeper. Then Hierarch. and fetch. Attack for 3. I could attack if they block, then use Wight to get Bojuka Bog and bog them, taking out creature. I don't mind that because we don't have a great defense on the Barragoyf. So if we can take it out in the offense, I'm pretty okay with that. I don't think this actually works out the way I want it to, because we have to sacrifice a creature, which obviously puts a creature in my bin as well. I guess we can get Dryad Arbor and then also buff. Actually, this makes it a 4/4. So this is probably more than okay. Yeah, I'm happy to trade these, get a Cradle, which will be answered by the Wasteland, but I think that's fine. Thoughtseize is okay. They Wasteland us is just good practice to activate the Safekeeper. I believe this will flip the Tameo. Can attack with the Safekeeper for 2, going down to 1. So actually, an Exalted Creature off the top wouldn't be too bad. That is a Dryad Arbor. Feel about the Force, probably pitching. And fetch if Dryad. Not exactly where we want to be. This is where it would be really nice to have that sort of natural order out. The Merc. Yeah, I don't think we have too much to say there. I do like the grist. I do like the extra endurance. I do like the Wasteland on the play. Gaddock Teeg can come out. Probably some number of mana dorks. Be like one mana dork, one Springheart. I don't mind that. Like maybe a Snuff Out or two. Maybe, yeah, Bird and Springheart can just go. Like just to be able to have some sort of out for Murktide. Potentially snag a Tamio if we're lucky. It can definitely be tricky. Yeah, it's fair. Like the Thoughtseizes as well could just be a good cut. I don't mind having some access to them, especially as like a cheap way to deal with a Barrogoyf. But I can definitely understand why. I just find they typically always have at least a card in hand. It's very rare that they go down to 0 cards. Oh. Not great either, but we don't have too much to work with. I think it's actually just going to be bottom the Talon here and lead on Misty. This does rely on like a dual land start. Okay. They shuffled. Which is typically a good sign for a Wasteland strategy. Oh, they sided into Doomsday. Yeah, that's very true. I think that comes down to a bit of negligence on my side. But very interesting they've sided into Doomsday. Yeah, sorry, I should have played the Lair there and kept the Wooded Foothills for a Dryad Arbor. But here we are. That's quite funny. All right, we have a 4-turn clock. Obviously, like Cabal, I probably wouldn't bring in, but like obviously, I would if I knew it was Doomsday. I think obviously the endurance help, which come over. Thoughtseize is always interesting, but I do agree that it can be a little bit tough to have that still in there against a blue-black deck. Bobo's post-board. Blue-black. Cool to see though. Always cool to see a jig in sideboards. But definitely makes a tough matchup even more challenging, as I think any fair deck would have against a Doomsday deck. But maybe there's a chance that they don't go off this turn. Maybe we draw into a endurance. That'd be kind of cool. Would give us some sort of game. Yeah, definitely a few. Interesting. Was it actually Doomsday and they're just playing a bunch of mid-range? They didn't actually sideboard into it. It was just Doomsday from the get-go, potentially. Maybe. Nice. All right, we finish 3-2, which to be fair, I think for the first run is pretty nice. This deck is a little bit different to the typical Maverick list, and of course different to the typical Cradle control list. So definitely nice to finish with a positive score in the first run. The deck was sweet. I think if anything, just because of the league, we did kind of miss having the Grist in the main deck. But otherwise, it was kind of cool to navigate. Yeah, each game has a very fair deck considering 2025 Legacy. So, yeah, nice to see. Nice to see like Fiend Artisan back into the deck. We've obviously played with Wight and Fiend on the channel before in different decks, but I think Fiend tonight was probably the better of the two, given that cards like Gaddock Teeg were more impressive than say Bojuka Bog. yeah, that was really cool. I've got tennis in the morning, so I'm going to call it there. But a big thank you to all for coming in and watching. I very much appreciate it. I very much appreciate Newton for putting his time and effort into these sort of decks. New followers, new subscribers, thank you very much. I appreciate that as well. I will probably be back on Sunday. If there isn't English coverage of Eternal Weekend, I think I might even open up a like follower stream for Eternal Weekend, and then maybe get some people in over Discord to commentate alongside me. That'd be kind of cool. But we'll see what happens. I'm not so sure what the setup is with Eternal Weekend Japan. But I am very much looking forward to watching some of the coverage for sure. That is me. I'm going to see who else is streaming and send you over there. But for now, it looks like Torres is putting some green modern, which is there's been restreams for the Japan RCs with English casters. Okay, cool. Nice. That's really cool to know. Nice. All right. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the coverage if you get to see it. If not, have a great weekend nevertheless. And we'll catch you next